I'm 20. I have brown hair and blue eyes, and I have plenty of brothers. 4, to be precise. They'd call me bossy. I say I'm just trying to give them advice of how to navigate this strange thing we call life. I'm fairly sporty and can safely say I rely far too much on coffee, and have dreams of one day living in Australia and potentially becoming Aussie. Well, this is all beside the point, however. These things I'd happily share with you, but there's one thing I'd prefer to cover. And that's that I've suffered with mental health illness. And it's silly, because I know that if you've not suffered, then you will know someone that has. And while I'm walking around acting as if I'm immune to such behaviours and thoughts, I'm adding to a problem which is already tied up in knots and needs addressing and to be spoken about, as opposed to a bad stage in my life that I just try to block out. And I'm very lucky to be surrounded by a supportive family who engage in such conversations and need no persuasion in talking about this stuff. But I'm aware that's not the case with everyone. And it was only down to their openness that I began to talk about my mental health with far less shame. And I want everyone to feel the same. Feel like they can say I have self-inflicted scars on my arm because life felt too much, or that depression and isolation became their crutch. So on this day, please help me in raising attention. Because if I were to tell you around the world suicide kills one person every 40 seconds, and that the biggest risk to a man's life under 50 is himself, I hope you'd realise the severity of this situation, and that we can't walk around ignorant to this issue because lives are being wasted and totally misused. We need to talk about things like suicide. We need to feel like we've tried to do everything in our power to remove judgment and shame, holding people back from asking for help before they're on a track in which it's too late to pull them back. I want to help create a world where none of this is off limit, where there is no shame in saying that we're not okay, because at the end of the day, people are already feeling this way. It's not like they're not sad or finding things tough, it's just that we're not speaking about this stuff. For fear he will judge me, she will leave me, and they won't want to be around me. And it's easy for me to say that the dialogue needs to be open, but with no solution to help the broken, the problem will not be fixed. Because talking isn't easy. In fact, it's an incredibly difficult task in which we're forced to remove a mask that we've worn for such a long time. And it almost feels like a disloyalty, a crime to say to ourselves that we're not okay and that we're unable to keep these feelings at bay. That they feel overwhelming and all-encompassing, taking the life out of us like a leech blood-sucking. The conversation needs to be a two-way thing. We need both parties to bring this conversation to light. This is everyone's fight. The sufferer and the supporter. If you think someone's not right, ask them. It's important. Keep them safe, be there. Help them to connect to crisis, a mental health advisor, someone they respect. A seemingly small action could be enough to save a life and help us reduce an issue that is currently far too rife. If you don't feel right, please don't suffer in silence. You need not keep up the demeanour of the laughter and the smiles. Fear not the judgment of sharing your thoughts. They can be messy, unsensical, tied up in knots. Because whatever you say, it will never be as bad as turning to destruction, taking months, even years to rebuild the construction of your life and those around you. Mental health is something no one deserves to go through. I have dreams that we will one day live in a society where this is all the norm. But for now, I politely ask if you could not conform to a world where we fail to talk of the bad, simply keeping it in when we feel sad. And we have an epidemic of mental health illnesses, where we all stand here watching as witnesses. Today we have a choice to engage in the conversation, and by sharing all the good and the bad, it will serve as an education, reducing the devastation. Cause when we're unable to say, I'm not okay. Thank you.